All right, let's do this. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining. It's time for another exciting lightning talk. I'm Parag Katkar, your host for tonight. I'm the head of consulting practices at InRhythm, and we have a lot of exciting content lined up for you in the upcoming weeks. Our lightning talks are hosted every Thursday at 5:15 p.m. Eastern Time. And each week, one of our practice area consultants speaks on the latest and greatest technology trends in the industry. And this week, Wilmer Sinchi, who is a front-end engineer with InRhythm, is going to go over Svelte and Solid and do a good demo on it. And I'm super excited about this talk. So without further ado, let's get it started, Wilmer.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the basic introduction. How you doing, guys? My name is Wilmer Sinchi. And today we'll be discussing the basic addition between Svelte and Solid. And here's some overview of what's exactly what's gonna go on. We're gonna basically discuss exactly what is Svelte and Solid. I'm going to discuss why we want to use Svelte and Solid. And then each time we talk about Svelte and Solid, I might show a little demo, basic to-do list app. And then we're gonna end our conversation with some questions you guys have any. So what is Svelte? Svelte is a free and open source front-end compiler created by Rich Harris. Svelte is like a radical new approach to building new user interfaces, whereas traditional frameworks like React and Vue do both of the work in the browser. Svelte shifts that works into a compiler step that happens when you build your app. Instead of using a technique like virtual DOM diffing, Svelte writes code that surgically updates the DOM when the state of the app changes. So why do you want to use Svelte? Well, if you like to build a dynamic application, then Svelte is the way to go. If you like to write less code, then Svelte is the way to go. Everyone likes less code. When there's less code to write, there's like less factory and fewer bugs to deal with. The fact that the Svelte doesn't use virtual DOM, instead it compiles the code into vanilla JavaScript code. As a result, the code works much more faster and improves the performance of the app. It achieves a smaller bundle size, therefore ensuring faster loading speed and better responsive and lowering as well bandwidth costs. This is very beneficial for a user with poor network. Now I'm going to go on with basic demo of how exactly Svelte is being used. So I'm going to show like a little demonstration of a basic to-do list app by using Svelte. So here, that's solid. So here in Svelte, you have the basic application, nothing too fancy. Here on line 4 to 7, we basically initializing the state of the component. We have some prerequisite stuff array. We have some text, we have some status array, and we have some item list array on the right-hand side, in the UI side. You have two functionality. One's to add to-do list, and the other one to remove items to-do list. As you can see, this one basically adds this basically up to the state. And this one will help as well update the state removes my from the array of objects. On line 19, this is kind of similar to what you do in React component when you want to have a control component, but instead we're using the bind keyword. So we bind the new item with the empty string on line 2. And on line 20, we have a button, and inside the prop, you have the onClick one, where you want to invoke some kind of functionality when you click the button. And in this case, this is that to-do list. And the way you want to render every item from the array and see this thing get rendered in the UI side, you can use the each keyword, which is provided by Svelte. And then we could irritate each item in the array of the objects that we have in to-do list. And then we could identify exactly how I want. So item basically mean a single element of the array, and it can present the position of the array. And then of course you render the elements of what needs to be appear on the screen. So if I want to add like a new item here on the right-hand side, let's say feed cat. It should update the state and as well the UI, as you can see on this hand side. So let's go back to my other things that we're supposed to talk about. So what is Solid? So what is Solid? Solid is a JavaScript framework for making interactive web application. With Solid, you can use existing HTML and JavaScript knowledge to build components that can be reused throughout your app. And it was created by Ryan Carnito. This is kind of basically the same thing what Svelte does, but much more precisely, since they have a better automation tool. And again, Solid doesn't use a virtual DOM. Instead, it opts to compile its templates down to real DOM nodes and wraps this update in fine-grained reaction. This way, when you state updates, only the code that depends on it runs in it. So why do you want to use Solid? Well, if you like React, then you definitely love Solid, since it shows some kind of similarity in terms of having a component that is a function and returns a JSX element. Solid doesn't use a virtual DOM, again, because it serves as a compiler. And component and Solid, unlike React, render only once, and only the JSX expression and primitive that are being used in the component gets updated. This is why exactly how Solid is a lot faster than React, because every time in React, when the state changes, the whole component gets re-rendered, but this is not the case with Solid. So I'm going to show like a little demonstration of how exactly Solid is being used in the basic to-do list app. So here, straight from the bat, you can see some similarity in React. For example, like key and create store. Like usually in React, when you try to create a store, create a state, you most likely will use a use state. We have a getter and setter, the state, and then the setter gets set state, and you find what initial state. This is very different, but yeah, bear with me. On line 9, you can see the create effect. This is somewhat similar to what we use in React hooks in terms of using use effect, but the only differences between that is that see that the name is different. But in this case, you don't have an empty array dependency like you would do in React. So here we define the state, we try to define the state and add to a local store. And more further down here, on line 23 and 28, kind of similar to making a React control component. And then when you want to add like, the functionality to update the state of the state, this is the way how we do it. It's kind of similar exactly to React as well. And similar to what Svelte does, instead of using each, it uses for to irritate every element of the array, so it could render this part of the object on the UI. This is exactly how the way we would do it. So if I were to like add something here, let's say, oh, I already added feet and already, but if I want to add something else like my dog, then it should update the state as well as the UI. So let's go back. So in conclusion, you can see that Svelte and Solid doesn't use the virtual DOM. It serves as a compiler. So both of them are compiler. But if you want to write less code and build like a small, building a small component, this Svelte is the way to go. But if you like React and you use some extra feature like React does, such as context, suspense, or lazy loading, then you definitely like Solid since it shows some similarity. And actually, Solid is a lot more faster compared to React. I would love to talk more about how bundle size between Svelte and Solid, but throughout the year that changes. So I really can't say like the Svelte has a smaller bundle size or Solid does, because there was some year where Svelte was smaller and Solid was. And Svelte and Solid in terms of speed and performances, it's kind of almost similar, but at the same time, it also depends how do you actually modify how you create your app and infrastructure. And here's some useful links that you may want to see use to learn more about Solid and Svelte. Have any questions or concern? Anyway.
Hey Wilmer, that was great, man. Thank you. Yeah, this is honestly, I just wanted to give a little bit of feedback. This is a great introduction to both of these tools. They're part of, I would say, kind of a new trend, right, of these frameworks that are not actually, the reason why the bundle size is so small is that they don't need, the framework in runtime in order to run their code. They're a lot more like independent from that. So basically, once they compile their code, they don't need like a big bundle of JavaScript to handle all the actions. It's like very, very light, really. So it's amazing. Thank you for preparing this. It was very clear, very to the point, and you can see how easy it is, right? So I guess my only question was, did you get to know if there are specific testing libraries for Svelte and Solid?
I did get into that, and actually, I know in Svelte they have their own dedicated testing library, and as well as a lot more smaller than what you might use in React. And as well for Solid as well, they do have some own dedicated testing library as well. But I did read some things about how can you use Just as well, like you normally do with React. Hopefully that answered your questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, man.
Well, all right. First of all, thanks, Wilmer, for an excellent talk. And reminder to you all, we do these talks every Thursday at 5:15 p.m. Eastern time. And next week, Josh Espinoza, who is a senior software engineer with us, is going to go over contract testing, which I'm really looking forward to. So mark your calendar for next week. And thank you all once again for joining. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you all next week.